The media is shouting to the toy tops, to the rooftops, telling you that the Barbie movie is doing fantastic. So why are the folks at Mattel apparently not celebrating? Well, folks, we have a big video for you today as we dive into the box office and we tell you the tale of what is going on behind the makers of the plastic dolly for the last decades. We're here with scoops, with sources. This is one you do not want to miss, and we're getting started right now. All right, folks, welcome back to another video of excellence here on the WDW Pro channel. What a joy it is that you join us each and every day as we endeavor to explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve. Today, we are dealing with curves, but they are the type of the Barbie variety. And joining me to go into this is Mexican Iron Man, who, Mike, I'm betting you never thought that you would be doing a YouTube video all about Barbie dolls.
No, but fortunately, we're going to be talking about the numbers of the cinema and not the actual movie today. But yes, thank you, sir.
That's right. We're diving into the financials behind this. And folks, this is intriguing. We have sources, we have scoops. This is going to be a lot of fun and very, very eye-opening, way beyond what the mainstream and corporate press is going to tell you. All right, folks, as we dive in, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and click it and stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. We are going to begin today with an article out of the corporate media, just so you know what they're saying. This out of the Hollywood Reporter by Pamela McClintock, and we like Pam. Box office fusion. Barbie heads for staggering $155 million plus opening. Oppenheimer eyes $77 million. And before we get into this, let me just say, too, that I am so pleased for the theater owners out there. Whatever you may think of these films, whatever you may think of where they're taking us as a culture, it is hard to deny that the cinema operators needed this badly. And frankly, everybody in the industry is going to need this badly, given what's going on with the strike. But the subtitle here says, thanks to the Barbenheimer phenomenon, it is the first time in history that a 3-day weekend has seen one movie open to 100 million or more and another to 50 million or more. So win for everybody who sells popcorn. The summer box office just went nuclear, or is it what was it? Nuclear. That's what they used to say. That's what George Bush used to say decades ago. Nuclear. Sure, he still says it. Filmmaker Greta Gerwig's female-fueled Barbie started off with a stupendous $70.5 million on Friday, including $22.3 million in previews. If early modeling is correct, the Warner Brothers movie is headed for a historic $155 million plus opening domestically, a threshold usually reserved for male-driven superhero fare or marquee IP, such as the final Harry Potter movie. Some show the movie even crossing $160 million, although Warner Brothers is remaining more circumspect and sticking with $150 million plus in case Saturday traffic tails off. Now, Mike, one of the things that I find interesting about the Barbie movie is that this film was marketed in a way that is markedly different than what is in the film itself. And the fascinating thing, too, is that apparently they learned from the failure of Little Mermaid, from the failure of some of these other Disney movies, where the Disney movies immediately went into marketing the highly divisive content that they were going to have in there. So for the example, Little Mermaid, they immediately dove straight in from the get-go into racial issues. Didn't have to, they chose to, they divided the audience, and then they lost that audience. The Barbie movie, on the other hand, is all about smashing the patriarchy, apparently, and they didn't talk about that at all. Not a single peep about the patriarchy in any of those trailers and any of those commercials. Now we're seeing that perhaps on the first weekend at least, that has been a highly successful strategy. But my question to you is, what do you think will happen in terms of the next weekend and the weekend thereafter? Do you think word of mouth is such that this film does, let's say, fairly well? Or do you think that negative word of mouth from families who were not anticipating this type of content could potentially drop this thing off a cliff?
Well, I'm going to answer your question numerically as well as anecdotally. I'll start anecdotally. I haven't seen the movie, but reviewers that I trust just implicitly and just completely reviewed the content. Midnight's Edge, our channel dropped a video. Andre did a fantastic review, and there's others. And based upon that, I mean, even my own kid who was going to go to the movies with some of the kids from summer camp, I immediately contacted them as well as his mom, as well as contacted a friend of mine that's got an 8-year-old daughter, and I started spreading the word to not go see it. So maybe I only derailed about 9 tickets total, but I do think word of mouth will hurt it. And I think numerically, if we look at what the per theater average is so far with the first couple of nights, it's averaging $16,616 per theater in 4,243 theaters, with its total gross reported as of this morning from the prior 2 days of 70.5 million. So anecdotally, I think word of mouth is going to spread. I've heard of it spreading. I myself am spreading the word, and I think it will drop off a cliff. Even if word doesn't spread too fast, I think everybody and anybody that really wanted to see this movie with a $16,616 per theater average, that is astounding. That is almost double of what Oppenheimer did at over 9,000, and with its 33 million from the first 2 days, which had fewer theaters, mostly large premium format. And I do think that the Barbie movie statistically and mathematically will fall off. I do not see that we're going to see some of the success of Mario Brothers and others, because anyone that did go to the movie, even those that seemed to favor it or maybe had a lackluster, mediocre type of response, those are not the type. There isn't the type of rewatchability for a movie like this. And in order to hit the big numbers, the 300, 500 domestic millions of dollars that need to be hit, you have to have that rewatchability, like some of the Spider-Man movies have seen, and certainly like, for example, Mario did earlier, which had a lot of rewatchability. So I do think that they should enjoy this opening. I think that there's going to be a lot of spin to keep this thing going. I see this going off of a cliff, and that breeds the question that there's been other. You're right. I think the marketing was one element that we didn't know what we were getting, and now we've got it, and where it's going to spread. I think there's also a secondary factor, which was that there's a lot of anticipatory value. Probably a Barbie movie should have been made. I don't know what you think, but I can't believe they didn't put something out in the last, 20, 30 years. So I think there's a lot of people that are excited about this company, this product, Barbie dolls, and it's an American institution. And it reminds me of how I think, I could very well, in my mind, I remember being excited and everyone being excited to see The Force Awakens as well as The Last Jedi. Those movies did huge numbers, but we also know what those movies did to that particular IP and franchise.
Absolutely, and subverted the expectations of the people who love that franchise. Perhaps that is what is happening with Barbie as we speak. Now, Mike, I want to go back to the article for a moment, and then we're going to come back again, because we've got some information about what is going on with Mattel and perhaps their concern that the cost of this movie goes far beyond just the production. Here's what I'm seeing out of this article again from the Hollywood Reporter. Barbie is skewing heavily female, 68%, while Oppenheimer is male-dominated at 64%. Now, here's the thing that I'm looking at. I'm wondering, are they betting the farm? Are they betting everything on the idea that young women are going to continue to fuel Barbie at this level? And can they, Mike?
That's an interesting question. Certainly, there is certainly. If I were this company, that might seem like a logical bet. However, in terms of disposable income and rewatchability, it's. I don't know if that's a safe bet, and in particular, if the look and the feel and if the look and the feel of this movie doesn't generate the reception that they're looking for, there will not be, that is not a good bet. Because let me tell you this, just take my kid's mom and all the moms she hangs out with. They do things together, and so it's not going to take long. If that's the bet, and this movie is not received well, it will take nanoseconds for word to spread like fire. And this bet that they're placing, that people are going to keep coming back to this Barbie movie casino, that's a bet that could potentially be lost fast and quick in the coming 2 or 3 weeks.
Now, we've also got a situation here where Mission Impossible has had something like a 55 to a 60% drop, not what they needed, and not legging out, in at least this weekend, in the way that these Tom Cruise films usually do. Definitely not a good sign there. We're going to be tracking it. But Mike, one film that is hanging in there doing quite well with only a 20% drop continues to be Sound of Freedom. And it appears that this may be the real winner of the year, at least of the summer, because the mainstream media just can't kill it. Are you shocked at all that Sound of Freedom just continues to leg out in the way that it is? It's a very, very, what would you say, non-conventional film and a non-conventional strategy.
In non-conventional topics. It's absolutely astounding. As of today, the cumulative box office is now at $110,314,000. $110,314,000, all domestic, all domestic, no international distribution.
Yes, it's amazing.
It is absolutely astounding. And if we look at the production cost of 14.5, and I don't even know if they had a marketing budget, but let's just assume they maybe had a $500,000 invested in that one way or the other. We're looking at costs of 15 million. This movie's already made this movie's already made 51.2 million. And it just keeps going. I was looking at the year-to-date 2023 charts. Check this out, Pro. It is already ranked. First of all, it's the only independent studio in the top 15. It's already ranked number 14th. It's past flat. I mean, it's just astounding. I mean, it's already ranked number 14th behind Puss in Boots, and it's moving fast. And if it jumps up if this movie somehow manages to get up to 150 million, which frankly, I never thought it would do 100 million. But if somehow it manages to get to in the 150s, well, then it's going to pass Indiana Jones itself.
Well, and yes, I what a thing that will be. But Mike, the other fascinating part about it, don't mean to cut you off, but this is just amazing to me, is that apparently this film, given that the distributor was scrounging around trying to find any theaters that would allow it to be shown, they took the absolute worst screens in the country. Now they received a large quantity of them, but they're all terrible. It got zero in terms of the large format premiere kind of stuff, and this is all just the teeny weeny, stuck in the back closet of the theaters, and yet it's still doing these numbers.
Pro, you are so on point with that observation. I go to the movies. I see about on average 30 to 40 movies a year based upon my Fandango AMC accounts. And I mean, I literally, some months I'll see 4 or 5 movies, but I always see at least 3. It's weekly for me. I see something every week. Some weeks I don't see something. Some weeks I'll see 2 movies in a week, but I go to the movies. The theater that Sound of Freedom played at in my local cinema, the one that I go to all the time, was in a theater that I did. The particular
you didn't even know it existed. Probably.
I did not know it existed. It was in the back, but it was in the back behind the. I didn't even know there was another theater behind the one. It was in the right corridor on the hallway, past the other popcorn machine.
This was the custodian closet,
the concession stand that's never open, and that was the theater. Of course, when I went in, I walk in, and when I saw it, which was 4th of July at I think 3:00 in the afternoon, the place was 80% full. I mean, there were the seat that I had on the right, which I pre-bought, and only the front 2 rows were empty. I didn't even know there was a theater, and I've been going to this theater for 2 years, and I thought I'd been in every single theater within the cinematic complex. You are 100% on point.
That's we try to be. We do our best here, aiming for 99% veracity here, but we'll keep at it and see if we can ever hit 100. Now, Mike, I want to go to the speculation. Now, what a time to segue to this, but we need to get into speculation and rumor. However, I will say this comes from sources that I trust greatly. One of these sources is coming from Mattel itself, another source coming from the toy industry, very highly placed. And I sort of want to walk you through what I'm being told. One of these sources I can literally read from what they've sent me, the other I cannot. What I am being told is that Mattel has a bit of a schism between their executive side and their board of directors. Although the CEO apparently sits on both of those. He's the head of the C-suite as well as being the chairman of the board. But what I'm being told is that Mattel apparently sort of walked in lockstep with everything they were doing with this movie for a while, and then suddenly they got cold feet. They got really, really nervous when some of these other companies started taking criticism and then boycotts from the moderates and the conservatives out there. And all of a sudden, Mattel really did not want this movie to be marketed as sort of a feminist flick. And so that's where we started to see this differentiation and how they wanted to categorize it. when it was Margot Robbie out there or Greta Gerwig and what they were saying, and then you'd have the CEO of Mattel or some other executive saying, "Oh, no, 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 but this isn't that at all." And so I want to read to you from a source that connected with me on this. For those of you out there, this is indeed the source that we have, shall we say, humorously named Deep Toy. That's Valiant Renegade's name for him. But here's what's said. The Barbie movie was not a pirate operation. Mattel knew what was being made. Their feeling is that they are not trying to switch the Barbie audience in the same way that the animated He-Man went all girl boss and tossed the hero away. Great damage was done to He-Man, and Mattel does not want to be put in that same situation again. But Barbie is not. They are expecting the feedback to be divisive, and they are taking their points, ready to counter that feedback should it go into the levels that they don't want. However, their research side on Mattel says that the Barbie movie is going to do great in North America, although they believe it will be muted internationally. But here's the thing, Mike. This is the big number. And again, this is coming from someone who is really high placed in the toy industry. And this is just amazing to me. So Mike, that they are looking at doing a whole Mattel cinematic universe, right? They want to do Polly Pocket, they want to do Hot Wheels, etc. That everybody wants a cinematic universe.
Yep.
You're not going to believe this, though. Apparently, the folks at Mattel, they believe that the Barbie movie will hit $850 million worldwide for their box office, and anything less is considered a failure for this film. That is incredible to me. I think they have Mario envy. And here's the thing. In order to reach that kind of a number, what do they have to have? Like a three-time leg out off this first weekend?
Yep.
And I think now that the cat is out of the bag about what this is, I think they're lucky to get, a 2.2. So I'm looking at this and thinking, if they hit 700 million, I will be impressed. They want 850. Do you think they can get it?
Absolutely not. And the way this ties back, I think what we need to do is numerically look at this product historically in the last, let's just go back in the last decade. It was widely reported, Wall Street Journal, other places, from 2014 to 2017, the product had double-digit declines. They dropped down to about 900. They were able to get back in 2020. They went back up to about $1.35 billion worth of Barbie dolls and accessories. That was reported in the Wall Street Journal and Market Watch. And what they're hoping, according to this article that I glanced at before we went live on to tape this video, they were, quote, release of the 2023 movie Barbie is expected to create significant growth for the brand, fueled all the way through 2030. And so whoever your source is, in terms of, and going back to the comment you made earlier about betting and gambling, they certainly are. This is a product that languished, sort of came back in 20. And why did 2020 do better? Well, kids were at home with their parents, and I'm sure parents were ordering stuff online, and and kids are playing in the house, and so the sales came back up, but they've been relatively flat, and they haven't returned back to the levels of what they were. Now, if this movie doesn't perform, and if somehow the good name of the Americana name of Barbie is soiled in a significant way, then they can kiss that expectation for significant growth of this brand through 2030 goodbye, number one. And number two, they may not even be able to hold on to the slight rebound that they have due to COVID. It's similar to what I'll call the Last Jedi effect. Take someone like me, who I probably bought every lightsaber that ever was released that had an official license attached to it. I think I own about 23 or 24 now, but I haven't bought any in the last couple of years. I haven't bought any official Star Wars merchandise. I didn't. And movies are designed to elicit emotional reactions from its fandom, and if the reaction is negative, then I think your inside source, there better be somebody in Mattel asking questions, because they might enjoy this little bump of cash, but $200 or $300 million making, if they even make that kind of money, which they won't. There's no way that this movie's going to make $200 or $300 million. But even if it did make 50 million, 100 million, 300 million, that is a drop in the bucket to what this company and this product line stand to lose, not just in this coming year, but for the next decade.
So let's talk about that, Mike, because here's what I'm told. This runs perfectly into it. Apparently, the theory at Mattel for the last many years, as they have been developing this hand in hand with the studios, is that the Transformers strategy should be the Mattel strategy. In other words, they had Hasbro envy. They looked at what was happening with Transformers, and their position was that it did not matter the quality of the Transformers movie. That had very low impact. All that mattered was that kids went and saw the Transformers movie, and it acted as a giant advertisement for the toys. And then they looked at the growth in the Transformers segment, and according to the source that I have, they believe that Mattel actually made a critical mistake in misunderstanding how much more expensive the Transformers toys were being sold and misconstrued that as the total quantity being sold. But we'll leave that for the moment. Their thought was that the Barbie movie, it did not matter. It didn't matter how good it was or what the messaging was. It just mattered that it would drive up toy sales. And then, just like you were saying, along comes the situation with the alcoholic beverage company, right? Along comes the situation with Target. Along comes the situation with Disney. And there's Mattel now freaking out, right? The C-suite, not the board of directors. The board of directors, I hear, is totally different. But the C-suite freaking out because now they're scared to death that, oh my gosh, what if this turns into a backlash that bites Barbie? And I think you're exactly right. I think that the cost of this film is not necessarily the production and the marketing. It is the cost of what is going to be a diminishment of this brand with moderates and conservatives. It's not just conservatives that they could lose. It's the moderates. It's the moderate mommies who could go see this film and say, you know what? I don't like what this says about my son. I don't want my daughter to look at my son this way. Mike, what do you think is the?
I think you touched on something real important. And here's the thing with the Transformer movies is that we can argue whether or not any of them are any good or whether most of them are mediocre to poor. Certainly, we can have that argument. But one thing that we can say about the Transformer movies is that they never deliberately taint their own brand. They never deliberately change the narrative or the vibe, the feeling, the emotional experience of the Transformers toy brand. This is different. This Barbie is potentially going to have a Bud Light effect. I mean, this is the question to be asked. If you meaning not you, Pro, but just if someone let's say it's a mom takes her daughters to this movie and doesn't have that really great feeling, how excited is that mom going to be to buy Barbie collectible items? How excited is that mom going to be to buy lots of other Barbie stuff, other Barbie items and accessories for their own kid post this movie? And as the children are born, as the children get a little older, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, is this a product that is going to is this a product that because the movie left a bad taste, will leave a bad taste in the brand? And I think it will.
Well, so let's go to this question then, Mike. And I want to say, too, that one of the sources says that in regards to Mattel having, a dozen or more movies in the works for their toy lines, the source says, no way. There's no possible way. And that if the collapse occurs that we suspect might happen, although we're waiting to see, perhaps teenage and early 20s women will go out in mass over and over to support this film. I don't know. This is sort of unprecedented. But if a collapse occurs in the second weekend, then Mattel's going to be lucky to get 2 or 3 movies total in the next decade out. So you've got Hot Wheels, you may have Polly Pocket, and that's about it. But Mike, there is a massive criticism going on against those who have perhaps been in our camp. We have heard over and over the slogan, go woke, go broke. Now people say, well, Barbie is proving that's not true. But I sort of have the opinion that we don't know yet what's going to happen. We need to see that second and third weekend. And then we need to see what happens to the overall brand. But do you think that this could be an exception to go woke, go broke? Or do you believe that go woke, go broke stands as a as a test of time?
Go woke, go broke is, there's a couple of things that we have to consider. First of all, is that in the case of Indiana Jones and similar types of experiences, there were leaks that came out that let people know what we were going to get. And I think that drove a lot of the box office failures that we saw with Indiana Jones. In this case with Barbie, the marketing told one story, the movie's delivering a different product. The marketing doesn't match the movie. And so it's not about go woke, go broke. We've got to allow time to set in. That's frankly what it's going to be. There, the anticipatory value. In business, there's something called anticipatory market demand. Okay, what is that? Well, let's go back to the Force Awakens and the Last Jedi example. We hadn't had a Star Wars movie in a long time, long time. The market was craving Star Wars movies. The market was excited that Disney was going to release some Star Wars movies. The hoopla about potentially that Disney was going to be using script ideas from the great George Lucas, and people flocked to The Force Awakens. People flocked to The Last Jedi. The damage to the brand of Lucasfilm, of Star Wars, of Disney took time to set in. So sometimes you go woke and you go instantly broke, such as Indiana Jones. Sometimes you go woke and going broke happens day, by week, by month, year after year, until it's obvious that the brand has been damaged and sales start to die off.
That's right. And the gamble here, and folks, if you take anything away from this video, this is the thing to take away. This is a massive, throw all the cards on the table, go all in, high risk, high reward, shoot the moon, whatever you want to say. Mattel is making a huge gamble here. They are gambling that women are drastically different than men in terms of their affiliation with these various political and socioeconomic causes, or sociocultural causes, I should say. And they're banking on the idea that women are way more woke than men are, and that they will not have the same backlash as some of these other brands. That is a huge risk, and they may be regretting it already. So if you're wondering why the executives might be freaking out behind the scenes, even after Barbie is having a great first weekend, it's because the cost is far more than what the mainstream and corporate media is telling you. Now, folks, we need to get to these cues from you. On Sundays now, we try to answer questions from our members. It is a common thing we do here. And Mike, would you care to join me in answering some of these fantastic member questions?
Sure.
All right. Well, we've got Way of the Dad asking, which movie will likely end up with a lower final box office haul, Blue Beetle or The Marvels? Also, do you think James Gunn made a mistake saying Blue Beetle was the first DCU character there when it was greenlit? And Mike, I'll give my answer, then I'm curious what you think on this. But I would say that Blue Beetle probably has a lower final box office haul than The Marvels, although I think The Marvels is going to be terrible and dismal, and well, I don't think it's going to perform in the way that Disney would hope, although they may be finally coming to grips with the situation they have. And I will say that I don't take joy in Blue Beetle potentially coming in lower than The Marvels, because I listened to Polly of Latino Slant give an impassioned plea for this film to do well, and I was persuaded to his side. I hope it does well. I'll wait and hold my judgment until I see the film, but I'm hoping it's a good one, and I'm hoping that fans will support it. Mike, thoughts on this one?
I think the Marvels will blow Blue Beetle out of the water. Blue Beetle is not a character in the DC comic book universe that is widely regarded and has a lot of popularity. And despite the fact that there might be some notable cast members, I think that the recent failures by Warner Brothers to manage the DC universe pre-gun and post-gun will give it a less than enthusiastic reception, in particular as evidenced by the lack of enthusiasm for The Flash, which is a premium top 5, top 3 DC character, and that movie didn't do well. There's no way that Blue Beetle will do well at the box office.
That's a fantastic point on The Flash. Mike, read this next one from Vixeris for me, please.
Vixeris says, so what was the wait at Gideon's Bakehouse like? I haven't found a wait time under 2 hours, even when I get there an hour before it opens.
Now, this question is about Disney Springs and my experience. By the way, folks, we sent reporters from that park place to Walt Disney World for 3 weeks straight, getting scoops, gathering information, doing their research. I was not there for that long, but I was at Disney Springs, and I relayed some video footage of just how empty Disney Springs is, which coincides with how empty Disney World is at large. As for Gideon's Bakehouse, it was under 2 hours, but I don't remember exactly, although that is a very, very popular place with the locals, and that's a key difference there than in situations like Rainforest Cafe or T-Rex Cafe, etc. All right, Michelle C. says, all their movies are failing. Studios are out of control. The parks are now undergoing lower attendance, and now they are trying to sell off parts. Does Disney really think they are on the right track? Mike, this is a fantastic question. Do you think that the leadership inside Disney thinks that they're doing the right thing and just not getting the results they deserve?
I think that they are probably, in business and baseball and sports and in life, you can either play to win or play not to lose. The problem with Disney right now is that they are in reactive mode and they're trying not to lose. This company, if they would open their minds and open their ears, they know what they need to do. They need to upgrade their parks. They need to get ready for what's coming with Universal. They need to purge a lot of this politicization, and they need to get back to the core of what made this company once great, which was to be a family entertainment company. Until they either tacitly or subliminally admit that they were wrong and they have to return to that mission, then they're going to continue to play not to lose. And when you play not to lose instead of playing to win, guess what you end up doing? You usually lose.
I think a mea culpa is in order this time. The Skeptic Tank says, would there ever be a way for those wanting to support those actors and writers who need it? Places like PayPal, GoFundMe, etc. And Skeptic Tank, absolutely. And the longer this thing goes on, the more I'm sure you'll find funds out there and charities out there which will be helping that side. The corporations, I don't think, are going to need that kind of assistance, but the bank accounts for the corporations, the studios, the distributors, far, far and away deeper than the average person participating in the strike. And so as time goes on, if those strikers are to win, they're going to need help. I take no position for either side. I am not going to be, championing the causes of either way. I'm trying to be a neutral umpire in the situation. And as we have heard from so many of you out there, many of the viewers of this channel and perhaps the general population, they don't support either side. They think Hollywood stinks on every front. All right, Mike, read us this next one from Cocho Dragon.
Coco Dragon asks, with upcoming streaming content, example, The Dragon Prince Season 5, July 27th, updated they released early since their panel was at Comic-Con on Netflix. Then the following week, Super Mario Brothers on Peacock, and then Ahsoka. But could Ahsoka underperform like Mando Season 3, depending on viewership and the interesting conversations about Ahsoka from our friends at Echo Base Network on their Thursday chill stream? It would lead to more trouble for Disney Plus if the other shows from the different streaming platforms perform better than Ahsoka, given what we're seeing out of Secret Invasion, even if Iger says everything is just fine at the earnings call.
Well, what a question. And here's an answer that I hope is warranted for this. Folks, check out where Secret Invasion is going. I don't know if you've heard this yet, but Secret Invasion is going to be moved, at least partially, to Hulu. Now, why? Because they're in trouble. The ratings are in the toilet. And so what this means is that they have now moved Miss Marvel, which, by the way, is essentially advertisement for The Marvels coming out this November. They've moved Miss Marvel to ABC, and they're moving Secret Invasion to Hulu because there is no viewership on Disney Plus relative to what they need. The viewership for Secret Invasion means that the stuff that happens in that show largely remains a secret. And on top of all that, when it comes to Ahsoka, that trailer was largely mocked. It was not well received. And if it does poorly, watch for more and more rumors that Dave Filoni could actually even lose his movie. We have, by the way, a massive scoop coming tomorrow regarding Lucasfilm. And we have more scoops this week. In fact, I don't even know how we're going to get through all the scoops that have been coming in. This is going to be probably one of the biggest weeks of all time for the channel, but very exciting stuff. Thank you for the question. Stuttering Guitarist says, it feels like Disney is trying to show movement in almost every brand for the earnings call. Is there a part of the company that isn't on high alert right now? Also, what are the appetites of the studios like to resolve the strikes quickly? Mike, my answer to that one is the Disney Cruise Line.
Yep,
I think that's strong. What else can you come up with, Mike, that's not in trouble?
Anything that has to do with the cruise ships, I would say, is probably the only thing that isn't at high alert, because now I'm starting to hear reports and read reports that the Disney Vacation Club,
DVC,
DVCs, that people are increasingly unhappy over the last 3 to 5 years. So I would say that at this point, it's safe to say that aside from the Disney cruise ships, every business unit, whether it's ESPN, ABC, any of the studios, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Pixar, the theme parks, this is a company that if it were a building, there are fire alarms going off on every floor except one.
We've got a question that leads straight into that same thing. We'll just continue right along. Darth Apathy asks, where and when do you think Disney will land in a blockbuster Apple Sears triangle as a shadow of its former self, get its crap together, or just die? Darth Apathy, I'll just give you an anecdote. I was talking with a That Park Place reporter about this situation while in the Disney parks. And this reporter said, Pro, you have always said that Disney will not go bankrupt. This trip to Disney World has me rethinking that. And now that's not my position. I still think that it's extremely unlikely that it gets blockbustered or Searsed. But I'll say this. When I have a family member of a That Park Place reporter, when that person comes to me and says, you won't believe this, but a cast member walked up to me during our research here and told me her life story about how her mother was treating her poorly and used profanity all through this story. And I didn't want to hear any of it. And she just must be bored. Like, when you hear these kind of things,
wow,
this stuff never happened. Like the standards were so high.
Pro, it doesn't
Disney World and Disneyland.
That doesn't sound like that doesn't sound like the happiest place on earth, does it?
Sounds like Six Flags.
Yeah, yeah,
it's just so bad.
Yeah, it sounds like Six Flags on a Tuesday in the middle of August when no one's there. Well, let me ask you this real quick. I know we've got more to read, but just real quickly, anecdotally, when I last visited Disneyland in Anaheim, it was the first time, this was February of last year. It was the first time I felt that the magic was literally completely and totally gone. And when I say February this last year, I mean this past February. It just felt like the magic was completely gone between the cast energy, just the way the place looked. It always looked the same as recently. And I had just gone the summer before, and it just looked run down. It looked tired, and no one seemed excited to be there. There was no energy. There were no cast members dressed up running around that were happy.
I've got some interesting thoughts, Mike, and we'll share those this coming week. I think Disney World and Disneyland are, I'm talking that they're in crisis level. This won't go on. I mean, you cannot treat customers this way and
expect them to come back.
Yeah, well, let me give you two more examples, okay? And I want to say this. When it comes to cast members, there are some who have been there forever, and they are awesome. And there are some new ones who are awesome, and they get it. This is the first trip I've ever been on where I have to be critical of cast members. I've never done that before. Let me give you example number one. So Disney, a few years ago, they switched their expectations, and now you can show tattoos if you're a cast member. Okay, fair enough, right? People have different opinions on this. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. However, when I go to a Disney park and they have a competing cartoon character, like a cartoon character from a competing business, tattooed all the way up their leg, and they're wearing shorts, and they're a cast member, that's a little weird, right?
Yeah.
When you have a character from a different company that's tattooed on your employee. And another thing, it's a little strange to be on Main Street USA in Walt Disney World, Magic Kingdom, and to see a cast member with a gang or prison-related tattoo showing. That, I'm willing to say that maybe we need to revisit the expectations. Just a thought.
You know what? Maybe they should open up a new area called Disney Homeboy Land.
Some people would fit it. Some people would. All right. Descripto says people for some reason think that Disney is selling itself instead of just a few of its channels. How realistic is it that one tech giant could buy Disney, and how bad could it go in an antitrust or monopoly sense? Descripto, it is exceedingly unlikely that anything like that would occur. Disney would need to be sold in parts, because you will run into all sorts of monopoly issues if a tech company starts buying Disney with all its vast entertainment.
And there's another practical matter. Does Apple want to be in the theme park and amusement park business? I highly doubt it.
No, I can't imagine that they would.
It is the worst thing that a company can do, which is what Iger has done, is to take a company with a certain core competency and then all of a sudden decide that you have other core competencies that have nothing to do with your real core competency, because in reality you don't. And that's part of the reason why this company is failing. It can't be a studio. It's trying to be a studio, a TV station, a theme park, hotel. I mean, it's just silly. It's silly, and no company that's ever tried to diversify this much is ever going to be built to last.
Well, and here's the thing too. So when the news broke out that Disney wanted to sell ABC, which by the way, we actually brought that on this channel months ago, saying if they're going to sell anything, ABC is the biggest one that they could sell, and it's not incredibly tangled to the point that they would be prohibited from doing so. But when it came out that they might sell ABC, one of the things that I did, I called up Valiant Renegade, and we started discussing, what are we hearing from our sources and who's saying what, who might be the buyer. And we struggled to come up with who would actually want to buy ABC and could buy ABC. When you talk about Disney as a whole being sold, well, you're talking about 1,000 ABC type segments, and who the heck wants them, right? Especially as they get devalued. When your CEO comes out and says that you're not core to the business, guess what that just did to the value of that segment that he wants to sell? Not good. And then Space Dave 2000 says, where do you see the channel in 1 year? Exciting and blessed times ahead. And Space Dave, all I can tell you is that you all, the members and the viewers of this channel, you are the electricity that drives it all. Whatever good comes, it will come because of your support. And you all have been amazing. Mike, what do you think we could pull off with this channel? You think we can do some more excellence in the next 365?
Well, I'd love to see get a play button before the year's over.
Let's do it. We'll hang it on the wall. We'll put a few Christmas lights around it. Who knows? We'll have some fun. But Mike, thank you for being here with us for this one. The Barbie movie, maybe costing a little bit more than just the dollar sign would display. And Mike, where can people find you on this great, big, beautiful web for more excellent analysis such as this?
Midnight's Edge After Dark, Tuesdays and Thursdays with Tom Connors, and in the mornings, Midnight's Edge in the mornings. Thanks for having me.
Well, no problem. It is a pleasure as always. And folks, don't forget that Mexican Iron Man, also known as Mike, he may not be a YouTuber, but he is the maker of many channels out there. He is fantastic at finding creatives, finding the people who can make stuff happen, and he is a facilitator behind the scenes like you cannot imagine. The man works tirelessly to bring you content, and he deserves to be applauded. Well, folks, if you wouldn't mind to applaud us, click that like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. The conversation here has come to a close. But the commentary begins. We care about your thoughts. We covet your comments. Drop one down below and let us know what you think about all of this. Barbie, Oppenheimer, Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible, Sound of Freedom, and the freakout at Mattel. We would love to hear about it. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, keep having fun. And we've got big scoops this week coming your way.
Woohoo!